now. Okay, fantastic. Okay, so welcome. So we're going to talk a little bit about today. We're going to be on Zoom, so just a little bit of etiquette. So if you do have questions at all during the session and they're related to Changemaker and Residency Week, that is, if you are having issues downloading apps or sort of connecting to something or those kind of things, questions about innovation capital, your Changemaker profile, if we could have you leave those to the end of the session, we'll leave some time and space to answer any of those questions. You can put them in the chat, but we will be answering those specific questions about Changemaker and Residency Week towards the end. We're going to be doing, we're going to be going into Mural in a few minutes, but first of all, we're going to, we also want to let you know that you're going to be going into Breakout Rooms as well. So we will be going through the first part of this Mural. We're walking through the presentation, talking about Changemaker Pathways, and then we'll be putting you into Breakout Rooms and you will be interacting. So we would ask that you do join your breakout rooms because this is an interactive session. You'll find that in Changemaker and Residency Week, most of our sessions are pretty interactive. So it's okay if you need to step away, but just remember we are going to be doing lots of activity. So I'm going to be handing this over to Martin for a minute, and he's going to start us off with our land acknowledgement. Here at Georgian indigenization is a major priority, and if you were at the session this morning, you'd hear a little bit about how we're starting to look at change by reconnecting to our land. So Martin, I'll hand it over to you.
Sure, thank you. Great to have everyone here again. So for the land acknowledgement, Georgian College acknowledges that all campuses are situated on the traditional land of the Anishinaabe people. The Anishinaabe people include Odawa, Ojibwe, and Potawatomi nations, collectively known as the Three Fires Confederacy. Georgian College is dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture and committed to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect with all First Nation, Métis, and Inuit people.
Thank you. And if you were at the land acknowledgement this morning, we talked about how we look at our ancestry and where we've come from. And I know we have a lot of different backgrounds and a lot of diversity at Georgian College. So it's this idea of honoring our ancestors where we are and honoring how we can move forward in this idea of diversity and truth and reconciliation here in Canada. So without further ado, Martin, what's a changemaker? Can you tell me what a changemaker is?
I think changemakers, there's different ways we define it, but to me, a changemaker is always someone who is not afraid to speak up and make changes that they feel will benefit the community and others, even if sometimes it is to their own detriment. You have to fight forward and make those changes done. So that's what it is for me.
Absolutely. And I think change making is something that means different to everybody. I'm really interested in, changing the status quo, making it better, recognizing that I have positions or opportunity to do that. And so my job is to bring my talents to that, to make a positive change I want to see. So in your chat here, we're going to talk a little bit about change making and some pathways by which you can do that for. Because here's the thing, change making isn't discipline specific. So as you can see here, you can be an ECE, you can be a computer programmer, you could be in aviation management. It's kind of how you wrap around this idea of the type of change you want with the skills and knowledge that you have available to you. And so we're going to show you a little bit today by exploring some Changemaker pathways. So I'm going to share my screen here. Here it is. I'm just going to answer. Can everybody see my screen? Martin, can you see my screen okay? Everybody? I can't see.
Yes, sorry, I can't.
So I can't see anybody in the chat.
Yep, I can. I was giving you a thumbs up. Yep, but we should all be seeing.
Okay. Yes. Okay, I can't see it. So there we go. All right. Woo, yes, thank you so much. So I'm going to share my screen in a few minutes. I'm actually going to post the link in the chat. But first of all, I really wanted to walk you through just a little bit of overview. And if you're spending a lot of sessions with us today, this platform is going to be your best friend moving forward. Why? Because almost every session we have here at Changemaker and Residency Week will use this platform called Mural. Mural is a massive whiteboard program. It's really cool. And you can see at our 50,000 foot view today, this is the mural that we're going to be working on. It's our workspace. It's our whiteboard. You can see over here, this is kind of where our activities are going to happen. You can zoom in and you can start to see some of the goodness going here. And oh my God, look, we got Charlie hopping around the whiteboard on his skateboard, or their skateboard, sorry. We've got Darth Vader. Darth Vader even showed up to help us out today. So really kind of cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about how to use this platform Mural. And I just want to kind of go over some of the tools that we have here before you guys all get in there and start moving around. So first of all, the trick to Mural is actually this thing called Zoom. See how I can go in really, really close and far away? And there's a reason why. The secret to it is that when we create a sticky note, what happens is I want to zoom in and type, okay? I don't want to make it big, because I'll tell you why. Because if I start making it big, this is what happens, and I cover over everybody's workspace. That's huge. Okay, so really what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're zooming in and out, and you can practice that a little bit. Okay, the other thing, and you can self-locate yourself in sort of the zoom down here, as you can see, I showed you here. Just down here in the lower sort of right-hand corner. This is really cool. It allows you to kind of zoom in and out with sort of this little toggle here. Also, depending on what you're working on, I'm on a laptop, so I have both a mouse and a trackpad attached to my laptop. So it allows me to sort of use these navigation settings. And as you can see, as you click and hold down and drag your mouse around, these are different ways that you can sort of zoom in and out. The other thing that you want to note here as well too is over on the left-hand side, there's this amazing menu. And as you click on each one of these different icons, what starts to happen is it gives you a menu of all these really cool things that you can use. So for instance, today we're going to be using a lot of sticky notes, as you can see here, and I can type in there. So there are different sizes of sticky notes, different shapes. The other thing too is you can bring in some text, that sort of thing. The other cool thing, you got icons. So if you want to search change, so obviously change is, literally it's change, zooming in here. So that's really kind of cool. The other thing too is you can actually search Google as well. So if you want to actually drag over something as well, so I can actually bring in an image of Georgian College. It actually searched Google, and here I go. I can just drag it right over. So some really cool stuff. But the main things we want to look at today are sort of your sticky notes. The other thing too is if you right click, it brings up a menu as well too, so you can change colors and fonts and all those kind of things. So really exciting, great little platform to use. So we're going to get you in here now. The other thing too that we want you to do is down here at the bottom, you'll see there's myself and Martin. We're the facilitators, but the crazy thing about it is once you get in here, if things get a little crazy, and it will, you can actually don't show me cursors. You'll see what that means in a second. So I'm going to continue to share my screen for those who, I'm going to try to delete that. Why isn't that deleting? I'm gonna get in here to, I'm just gonna delete that. I'm gonna continue to share my screen for the recording. So for those of you who are following along and, oh, my voice is breaking up a bit. I'm sorry, I might have a bad intersection, okay? Or I mean, internet connection. So my apologies if that is the case. Martin is keeping an eye on the chat too. So Martin, jump in if you need to say anything. So again, what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna share in the chat a link for everybody to jump in. Okay, so this is where we're going to join me in Mural. So just click on this link in the chat as soon as it comes over. I'm a little delayed, I guess. Okay, all right, so we'll start to have people starting to come in. All right, so click on that link that I've put in the chat, and this will allow you to join me in Mural. We'll be interactive. Okay, I'm going to continue to share my screen for those of you who may or may not have access, but we will be having an interactive a moment. So if you can come on in here and join me. I don't have the link yet. Okay, I've posted in the chat.
Yeah, the link is in the chat under Nicole's. It might be a little bit delayed in showing up for some people, but it's actually there twice. So just take a moment, maybe I think the last few people, maybe just scroll up on your chat and you see it. It's quite large, 4 sections in blue.
Yeah, just in your chat on Zoom. I don't see it either. All right. All right, here we go. How's this? That work for now? That better? Yes, got it. Helps if I don't send it to the people in the meeting room. Fantastic. All right, here we go. Don't you love technical glitches? Oh, look at everybody coming in. Boom, 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 boom. I love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Okay, as you get in here, start to kind of move around. Everything's locked down, so you should be pretty good. So there we are. Everybody's coming in. And so if it does start to get a little bit crazy, again, as I'm sharing my screen, you can say, don't show me cursors, and then everybody goes away. Okay, so if it does get a little crazy, you can do that. So the first thing we're going to do for everybody here today is I'm going to do this thing called summon everyone. So there's 35 people in this room, 36, everybody's coming in. I'm going to summon you all here, and we're going to do our first exercise. Okay, so I've got everybody, you're all summoned in. First thing I want you to do is on question 1, I want you to double click on a sticky note. And what do you think change making is? So can you do that? So double click on a sticky note, or as I say, you can also go over to the one side here and grab a sticky note, bring it in. This is your first task in Mural. It's kind of crazy. Look at all these people. All right. Fantastic. We got some good stuff happening. Martin, is it crazy on your side?
Yeah, I love the activity. It's just constantly moving. I typed in the question to the chat room. So again, what is change making? You've got your sticky notes.
Yep. Doesn't matter. Put her anywhere. Remember, zoom in. And if it's getting too crazy, you can see here on my shared screen, don't show me cursors and look, all you just see is just sort of this vacant thing. But I don't know. I think it's pretty crazy. It's excellent. You see anything there, Martin? Anything exciting coming in?
Let's take a look here. I might have to, there's so many, it's hard to know which one to pick, and they're all still kind of moving. So I'm trying to find one that's actually not moving.
All right.
Well, even if someone types in the chat, it might actually be a little faster on my end.
Yeah. Somebody found the other cool things too. Love it. Boom. Everybody saw the heart and stuff. Okay. Change is bringing a change to society. Okay. What else we got here? Making a positive change within your community. So if you're just joining us, we want you to have a sticky note and type in for us what you think change making is. Making a little difference. I love it. Okay. Wow. We got some craziness going on here. Fantastic. Okay. So as people are sort of doing that and getting used to, just give us a chance here. How's everybody doing? They got it? Everybody like Mural? Some people like it, some people they don't. But in the end, it will be your best friend. This is a great collaboration tool. So as you're learning Mural throughout this week, you're actually learning some really cool tools that in the future of work, as you're working remotely, particularly if you're doing anything that requires you to work with teams around the world, Mural was designed as a collaboration tool. A lot of designers and engineers will use it to sort of work through different projects and flow charts and all that kind of stuff as well too. But we got some really good stuff here. Continuing to take the initiative to change something for the better. I like it. I like it. I like it. So what you're finding here is change making is really something that you define, right? Looking at something that you really want to change in the world, and how do we make it happen? So the next question I'm going to do, I'm going to summon everybody here. So we're going to scroll down a little bit further here. So this is sort of the beginning of things. So I'm going to just summon everybody. So watch out. I'm going to pull you all down here. Ooh, with the sound effects. Those are just included. So the next section we're going to do is I want you to take a look at each one of these icons that we have here. So we have like a policymaker, a researcher, a social innovator, a social entrepreneur, and write your name behind an icon or icons that you think kind of call to you. And, if you want to put more there, we've done. So write your name beside something and maybe your profession and maybe something that calls to you. So take a look at some of what you think these are. We'll talk about the definition of these shortly, but maybe just go with what kind of what moves you right now. Just kind of go with what calls you. Okay. So we got researcher, we got Braden's going to be a researcher. British is going to be a policymaker. That's fantastic. Champion. All right. Yeah. All right. Someone, Ashton in automotive business, volunteer. Yeah. So what are all these things? Why are we doing this? Take a look at them all. Move them around. All right. All right. Put them over. Yeah. I'm just going to move that out of the way so people can read it. Awesome. Okay. So write your name beside the icon. So just go into one of those sticky notes, write your name in those sticky notes, go around, take a look at them, kind of figure out what they are, feel through them. In change making, and a lot of times when you're making change, a lot of times we don't have a script, we don't have a pathway. Well, sometimes we do. We don't sort of have something that we follow. Sometimes we have to go with our gut. We have to feel it out. And so, learning to be in tune with yourself, learning to sort of look at things and understand them in deeper ways, really, really important skill if you're going to make change. I zoom out. Is it all right to answer questions in chat? Absolutely, you can answer your questions in chat. No problem there. Okay, Martin. So, in your experience with change making, how have you find sort of pivots? How have they been? Isn't that kind of one of our skill sets here?
I think the thing with pivots now during the COVID and lockdown, that's kind of something that everyone had to react to, and I mean, you all had to react to it as well, I'm sure. And you're in the way, I guess you had opportunities for learning, whether your classes, maybe your co-op experience, your work. So pivot, those were all the changes. The key point, I think, with the changes when being a change maker, you always want to look at, is this change for the good or the benefit of community? So again, that's part where you define your own definition of change making, but that's the one where I would like to focus on, right? So we are all doing pivots left and right. I mean, I know we've become to the point now we do so many pivots. It's the old saying of we've almost pivoted so many times, we're eventually going to be back to the spot that we started at.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as you move through in each one of these, there's always an exploration. So the great thing about change and innovation is there's not always a right answer, but there's lots of right pathways. So yeah, so this is great. So we've got a lot of volunteers, we've got a lot of empathizers, we've got some activists and policymakers. So do you guys want to see what these are all about now? I'm sure when you signed up for your profile, when you got your Changemaker profile, you saw some of these words. And you're like, okay, this is great. I signed up. I sort of identified as one, but what do they actually mean? And so that's a great question. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom out now for those who are following along and for those that are having issues. So let's talk a little bit first about the definition of the changemaker. So if you were in the session just previous, so Changemaking 101 or Changemaking Pathway, we started with this definition of a changemaker is one who desires change in the world and by gathering knowledge and resources makes that change happen. So I'm just going to summon everybody up here just in case you're wondering where the heck I am. We're right up here. So we're talking about the definition of a change maker. And so this little character here over on the right side of the screen, their name is Charlie. So at Georgian, we have our mascot Growler, who is the grizzly. So the grizzly bear is our mascot. You see it a lot in our varsity and our sports teams. But what you didn't know is that Growler has a cousin. And the cousin is named Charlie. And Charlie came to us. We didn't know that Growler had this cousin, but Charlie came to us a couple years ago when we got our Ashoka Changemaker campus designation. So Georgian is the only college, the first and only college that has this designation. And what it means is Georgian's able to join institutions globally that have dedicated themselves to graduating students with social purpose, social innovation outcomes. So this idea that 21st century skills of empathy, collaboration, teamwork, all these kind of things that employers are starting to look for in their future graduates and their future employees, Georgian has been identified as a leader in this space. So just talk to you a little bit about that. I'm going to move you down here. So, so Charlie came back when we got this designation. Yeah, I love Charlie too. Charlie came back when we got this designation and brought back with them these sort of 10 pathways. And so these 10 pathways, it doesn't matter what discipline you're in, doesn't, like I said before, it doesn't matter if you're taking graphic design, doesn't matter if you're early childhood education or if you're taking computer programming. It's this idea that as you read and review each of these pathways, you can actually become and take one of these pathways in alignment to your career. So for instance, a policymaker, if you're studying nursing, maybe you get to a point in your career where you're looking at being a nurse and you start to see some of the issues that we have, you know, whether it be addiction or poverty and how these things happen. And maybe you recognize that at some point somebody needs to name, you know, laws and policies. So you take your nursing knowledge and you become a policymaker. Same thing with an activist. You know, we see this a lot of environmentalism. Maybe you're an environmental engineer, or maybe you're doing something in education and you're recognizing that, you know, our connection to our environment is part of our mental health. And so you turn that knowledge into becoming an activist where you can start to shift change. Or a social entrepreneur. This is something where you want to have, where you actually are in business and maybe you want to affect positive change. Maybe it's more than just like recycling or social corporate responsibility. Maybe it truly is you're opening an opportunity to hire people that, you know, normally couldn't have an opportunity to be hired. So these 10 pathways are something to explore while you're here at Georgian. And what we do at the Center for Changemaking and Social Innovation is we try to align these pathways. And as you'll notice, as you go through your pathways, or as you go through and choose your sessions at Changemaker and Residency Week, you will see that a lot of these sessions are aligned to these different pathways. So if you have an interest in becoming a champion, go explore that session and see what it means. If you're interested in empathizing, go explore that pathway. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk to you a little bit about, so Lord Vader here is talking to you about your change-making awareness is growing stronger as you start to explore these different types of pathways. So how do these pathways show up in your career here at Georgian? Well, we're going to go over here. Oh, we got someone taking awares. So we're going to go over here. So this concept that we believe at Georgian, everyone is a change maker. So it doesn't matter. So as you think and you move through your studies, opportunities to do change making show up. So here's an excellent example of two of our amazing students who are at the social service worker program. They actually looked at food insecurity and designed an app. And so what they did is they looked at how volunteerism worked in a community. They looked at how food moved in a community, and they looked at how they might build a sharing app where people could share food on it. And so we would identify them because they were working with volunteers to run this. We would identify them as a social innovator to moving food in our community, but also a volunteer because they're also supporting an opportunity for people to volunteer. Here we have some child and youth care worker students, and what they did is they took an empathy approach to homelessness, to youth homelessness. And what they did is they created this thing called Bear in a Bag. And what we know is that in youth homelessness, that there's a lot of youth that couch search, and they're going to high school, and sort of the stigma around not having a place to go. So they designed an all-in-one backpack that allowed these youth to, if they had to leave abusive situations or if they just weren't in a good spot, they had a backpack that didn't sort of signify for them. Also great for foster children who are moving around. It was this opportunity. And so they empathized, and they became a social entrepreneur. They started to look at how they build this into a business and produce these backpacks. And finally, again, we had some other students here as well up at our Aurelia campus. They looked at actually passive greenhouses and could we employ women in the trades? And so this idea that it would teach women to trade, they worked with the YWMCA, and they started to look at how we could train women how to build passive greenhouses in the trades, and then how could we sell those as kits so that the community was seeded with passive greenhouses. And passive greenhouses are great because they hardly have any environmental footprint, and they sort of grow in sort of northern climate. So really exciting there. And then finally, as you noticed, a lot of you and some of you did have your avatars, is this idea that each of these pathways you can self-identify. So this is Drew, our outgoing president for GCSA Barrie. He identified himself as an activist way back when, and then you can see here our new profile. If you hadn't had a chance to get your avatar and the platform hopping challenge, you can see yourself. So this is some of the things that we do. And then finally, if you're really excited and I really want to be a change maker, we have something called Charlie & Co, where it really focuses on the volunteer, social innovator, and activist pathways. And you can see here, you can join up and sign today, and you can participate and do this sort of thing. So you see, we've got a bunch of shift disturbers here, and they're interested in making change in the world, and they're doing it through something called Charlie & Co, which is at each one of our campuses. So there you go. So that's a little bit about how they show up and how you can start to identify. And so the next question is I want to talk to you a little bit about, before we get into our exercise here, let's talk a little bit about the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So has anybody in the chat, and you can type yes or no, has anybody heard of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, or does anybody know about the UN Sustainable Development Goals? Martin, what do you know about the UN Sustainable Development Goals?
Well, I know that for one of the projects that I worked on, we focused on number 3 and number 11, which we're going to talk to you about later, which is good health and well-being being number 3, and 11 being sustainable cities and communities. But basically, it's a program where through the UN goals, we're looking at, and there you have a lot of different choices. And one thing I want to make sure too that you know is when you look at all these goals, there's a number of them. So when you look at a project, you're not just necessarily following one, you might be following quite a number of them, and different ones fit into different programs. Sometimes you might find a program that might, so even let's say the one, Barrie Home Share, where it's 3 and 11, there might be other ideas that you bring in that might incorporate to it as well. But again, I think it drives back to the main point of always having a positive impact in our community and making a real difference through those goals. So that's just a way to help you focus, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So the UN Sustainable Development Goals are 17 goals to transform our world by the year 2030. So you can see here, there's a little, there's an agenda. So the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, adopted by the United Nations member states in 2015, provides a shared blueprint for peace and prosperity for people and the planet now and in the future. So at the heart of this, there's 17 goals that we as a global community need to tackle. And the impact of these goals are done at the local level. So this isn't sort of government, this is not whatever, this is you, me, your neighbors. These are ways that we can look at these 17 issues and how we can move forward, okay? And so we're going to talk a little bit about today how you think these pathways can help support these goals, okay? And as Martin talked about just down below here, we do have a project currently running right now through the Charlie & Co initiative called Barrie Home Share. And Barrie Home Share is designed to match students and seniors in affordable housing. That was before the pandemic. The other thing that we looked at here is Barrie Home Share is really about solving social isolation with students and seniors. So as we know, a lot of our students face social isolation, and some of you might be facing it, particularly with the pandemic. We also know that our elders in our community, adults 55 plus, also face this. So the idea was, could we bring this initiative under a volunteer initiative, and could we support good health and well-being in our community, which is goal number 3, and could we support sustainable communities, economies, which are goal number 11. Okay, so they're pretty simple to work with, but it's just this idea of bringing up of these priorities, like Martin said, and how might we affect those locally. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go into some breakout rooms. Is everybody excited about that? You can type yes, no, yes, no. And what we're going to do today is we're going to look at some of the goals some of the challenges that are underneath these goals. So for instance, if we're looking at quality education, which is goal number 4, the very first goal we have here is how to provide education that prepares us for the 21st century. So this is a challenge under one of the goals. Okay, you can see it, goal number 4. All right, I'm just going to move that over there. Okay, we've also have here under goal number 3 is this idea of community health and well-being. So at the top right-hand corner here, you'll see the goal it relates to and the challenge underneath this goal. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to drive into breakout rooms. So we've got 12, we've picked 12 challenges under the goals. Okay, and your job is going to be, as a group, have a discussion, moving left to right, looking at each Changemaker pathway and saying, how might this pathway address this goal? Okay, so in terms of challenge, in sort of education that provides us for the 21st century, how might an empathizer or somebody following an empathizer pathway respond to this goal? How might someone as a volunteer respond to this? How might an entrepreneur, so an entrepreneur is somebody who works within a system inside a company, how might they make change for that? What about a champion? A community champion is somebody who, champions idea. They have a lot of influence in a community. And, when you think about leaders in community, they're generally champions if they believe that there's a positive change that can happen. An activist, well, we know a lot about activists. They're somebody that, they sort of disrupt, they break up the concrete, they shed light and awareness on an issue. A social entrepreneur, these are entrepreneurs who have decided that they're going to have a business that is aligning to social purpose. It's going to do good in the world. It's not just going to do less harm. It's literally going to, the whole reason it's out there is it does good to do well. The other thing too is a social innovator. This might be somebody who looks at something a unique, interesting way. They might bring a product to market. They might look at a policy, you name it. They're innovating on something that's broken or could be changed and shifted. Okay. And then a funder and investor. Well, we don't get anywhere in this world unless we have people who are funding. And it's not philanthropy. It's somebody who's looking to invest in social outcomes, that they're looking to invest in the community in a powerful way. The other thing too is a researcher. And you know what? We don't get anywhere without the data. So a researcher in this context, particularly with climate change, having science-backed data is really, really important. But also too, understanding community needs, really, really important as well. And then we have a policymaker. And we know that sort of when we're looking at sort of the municipal, the federal, the governmental levels, policies are really, really important. And policies can exclude people as much as include them. So when you're thinking about quality education, who gets excluded with some of the policies that we have, some of the funding models that we have? So this is what we're going to do today. So we're going to go into breakout groups. So I'm going to set these breakout groups up. They're just going to be random and automatic. In the meantime, Martin, do you have anything to add to this?
No, I think that's good. I think we should jump into the exercise because I think that's going to be really the meat of it, with people sharing their ideas, and I look forward to hearing them.
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. I'm going to do this for about 15 to 20 minutes because we're here till 1:30. So this is going to be the bulk of it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to assign you to your breakout rooms. The number of your breakout room is the lane you play in. Okay. So if you're in breakout room 1, you're going to go left to right on the top lane. Breakout room 2, you're going to go left to right and number 2. Okay. And so what you're going to do is look at the goal, look at the challenge, and see what each Changemaker pathway would do to respond to it. Okay, so I'm going to create these breakout rooms now. So we're going to open it up. So please head off into your breakout rooms. All right. Okay, if you can move into your breakout rooms, that would be fantastic. Okay, so if you haven't had a chance to join your breakout rooms yet, please do so. Set a timer here, about 12 minutes. Okay, so those of you who are joining, we are in breakout rooms currently, so I can add you to the breakout rooms if you like. Let me just see here. Okay, for those of you joining, this is where we are working currently, and I'm going to assign you into your breakout rooms. Okay, so we got everybody back. Everybody's coming back. How are you, Martin? How was that?
Good. I was going to say, I suggested that one of the people from our group talk about the experience. So Andrew, if you wanted to just have a couple comments, that would be great.
I mean, yeah, I can do that. For us, it's a hard topic to just think about right away. So what we basically got was just for empathize was just we were breakout group 6. So basically asking them what they think should be put in place these things because they deal with it on a daily basis. And yeah,
And so what was so Sandra, so what was your, so let's go, let's start. So you guys were group 6, and
Yep.
what was your challenge? What was the challenge that you were dealing with in group 6?
LGBTQ rights and stuff like that. So for
Okay, how to implement.
how
Okay.
to implement those things. So for empathizers was asking people in that community what they think should be implemented because they experience these sort of things on a daily basis. So whereas we might not, we have a certain understanding, but because we don't live with it every day, we can't, we're not the ones that should be putting in these rights, that we should be asking them to input their ideas as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, you know, don't design with us without us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really big when you're talking about social change and different things. Like, you know, we get into this mindset that we're going to be like the white savior, or, you know, I know better than you, right? It's not true. True community change happens when we bring everybody to the table and we can empathize about positions, right? And it starts with conversations. So does anybody else want to share from your group in group 6? Was that someone?
I think also too, we talked about the process itself as well. So the group, we could see that it's a lot of information as well to take in. It's a great tool, but you almost need more time even ahead of time, and things you can come back to and really think about. It's a very thoughtful process. So I think that's the thing. I don't know if the other groups found it this way, but there's just so much that you want to do, but the time of it is limited, and you really just need a little more time to be more pensive about it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so the tools that we're showing you today at Changemaker and Residence Week are just these are ways to start to think. So we know that we can always come back and do these later, and these links are open, but it's also an opportunity to start to think differently. So a lot of the things that we're getting you to do, you may feel like we need more time, but what they're doing is they're opening you up to new ways of looking, and also how deep these issues can be that we're looking at. So fantastic. Thanks, group 6. Can we have someone else? How about group? I was just going to take a look here. I'm on the mural here. I'm sharing my screen again for those of you. What about group 2? It looks like you got quite a bit, and group 1. So do we want to start? Does anybody from group 1 or 2 want to share? We got someone from group 1 or group 2 that would like to share?
Hi, I'm Mohit and I'm from Group 1.
Okay.
So our topic, how we're gonna promote the education in the 21st century, how we're gonna prepare, it's the topic for us. And for the first few things, like we discussed, and each of us wrote what we think have to do for the being an empathizer or a volunteer and so on. But after that, we just kind of went and gave out points. Yeah, like most of us had the common points on how to summarize.
All right.
And yeah.
I see you have a lot in your entrepreneur working inside the different systems as well too. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Great to see you tackled that. Fantastic. Oh, and champion, you guys have you humans did a lot here. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Gave our ideas on each and every part. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, that's great. Great. And what about anybody else want to share about group 2? Anybody? You can just jump in and just shout out your group, and if there's anything you want to share about the process at all. Anybody else? We got some good stuff. What about the internet? What about group 7? This is always interesting because we find that today, you know, in terms of accessibility, right? Internet can make or break your ability to stay connected to the world, especially in this COVID world. What were some of the things that the internet group or the Wi-Fi group in group 7, what were some of the things that you guys took a look at? You got people
Hello.
Yeah, hello.
I'm in group 7, the internet, and one of our points that we had, I guess I'll do champion, if that's all right. So a leader
Absolutely.
in the community who has political power make a push to force companies to expand their serviced areas without services.
Yeah, I like it. You got it. So how can you influence, especially in rural and remote communities, i.e. Barrie, Orangeville, or Aurelia, Muskoka? How do we get there? That's an excellent one. What else? Do you have anything else here? I see you have activist as well too.
Yeah, we have a campaign to raise awareness about people not having access to the internet.
Absolutely. You can start to see how these pathways all start to overlap together, how they have to work together, right? So you may find a champion in your community and an activist, and they have to work together on that awareness as well, right? Someone who has knowledge of the issue, but can also influence the issue as well. Excellent. Cool. Does anybody else want to jump in? Thank you. Anybody else want to jump in with some of the stuff that they were coming up with? What about group 8? You had discrimination, how to battle injustice. Anybody from group 8 want to chat or share? Okay, so we got mics. Okay, no problem. Fantastic. Okay, so we're just coming up here at 1:25. Love to hear in your chat, sort of as you sort of gone through this and knowing that, it's very deep. We showed you some pathways. Would love everybody to type in the chat 1 or 2 aha moments or 1 or 2 words that they felt in terms of some of the things they're learning about change making. How are you feeling about some of these things that you're starting to learn about in your first day at Changemaker and Residency Week? So just type it in the chat. We want a little bit of a chatterfall. So if you can do that, that'd be fantastic. You're happy to stay in this mural afterwards, but we'll just get everybody to sort of type sort of 1 or 2 words. Martin, what are some of your 1 or 2 words about some of the things that you're taking a look at today and with your group?
I think for me, it comes back more. So I think it's patience and process would be the words.
All right, if you can type that in a chat. Can I know the host name? So my name is Nicole and this is Martin. So we're the host name. That's for your co-op is not. Yes, patience and process. Can we have 2? So just feel free to type in the, into the chat some of the 2 words that you feel sort of as you took a look at these pathways today. Yep. Yeah, teamwork. Yeah. All these pathways responsible. Yeah. All these pathways work together. Yep. Many opportunities. That's fantastic. Yep. These are all 21st century skills you guys are learning, right? Yeah. Interested in intrigue. Yep. Yep. Fantastic. Love it. This is great. Leadership, important, inspired. Great. Excitement and creativity. Yes. Sometimes you have to be very creative when you're making change. Motivation, inspiring. Remember, change doesn't have to be a massive explosion. It could be small incremental steps like the empathizer, just, bringing some empathy to the conversation all the way through to rocking the world with a policymaker. Yeah, great. So with that, Martin, is there anything you'd like to close off with as these wonderful, brilliant students and partners and staff and participants are typing in?
No,
Like
I think if anything, I mean, if anyone has, I'd rather leave it for the students. If anyone has any last minute things they want to share, whether by typing into chat or just a word or something or a quote, I would rather leave it to the students because it's your process. You're the future change maker. You get to use these tools and proceed forward, bring us to a better tomorrow.
Absolutely. So are there any questions that anybody has? We'll open it up now in the last 2 minutes. Any questions that anybody might have?